It's a very simple call to action, very straightforward, and understood and utilized by several 211s across the country. The capacity, the messaging capacity that is supported in the application is live one-on-one texting for live help. So that's supporting individuals in a live two-way text dialogue where the end user is texting on their mobile phone and the responder is on a computer workstation. Those conversations can happen in a concurrent way. So a specialist can, or a responder can be responding to one or more concurrent conversations. And those text conversations are happening through the shortcode in the application. So the end user gets a message from the 5 or 6 digit number. In the case of 898211, they get a message from 898211. The conversation happens back and forth, and there's a complete record of that transcript in the system, and it is live two-way texting INR. Reminders and auto responses to keywords. So the ability to send out group messages based on what individuals text. So for instance, if you look at the INR model, you can also see it as a great way to reach out to individuals in the event of a disaster. You have folks texting you their zip code. So the service, just by nature of how it is set up and provisioned, is a two-way conversational tool, but it's also a broadcasting or group texting tool. And so when you utilize services and you utilize in the INR model zip codes, you can also support pinpoint accuracy or outgoing push style text to individuals who've texted certain zip codes for support. So it's a always, we talk a lot about that, always being able to migrate between and seamlessly migrate between live two-way dialogue and the group messages as required or as called upon and needed. Surveys, pre-post triggered and or schedulable. This is a very important component and capacity that is being utilized now. This is quality assurance surveys that are completely automated and completely supported through text two-way exchange. So being able to survey clients after encounters, was the help that you got helpful? Were you able to follow up on the referrals that you were given? Or were you able to get the help that were provided? Or after we had a conversation with you, how are you doing now that it's a week later? So being able to have those be automated or triggerable based on the responder's election is now part of the service. You can also create reminder series or group messages that go out according to a schedule. So think educational texting. Sending out messages that once you opt in or once you start your message track, you will get the following messages according to a schedule. Weekly texts, bi-weekly texts. Group messages and the ability to build and assemble groups, kind of like email listservs, and then send content to those groups. So not bound by what they texted, but by criteria that you have. This is a group of individuals who called us during a burst. And these are people that we told we were going to text them once we got the information that was needed to send them the referral. So it was a delayed referral, but here are the phone numbers, you want to group them, and then send them this text now that we've got that information. Appointment reminders. The ability to send appointment reminders to appointments, tax season, any kind of appointment reminder capacity and partnership that you engage in, utilizing text to send out appointment reminders has been extremely effective. And what makes the appointment reminders in the system, Provision Base, unique is that you can invite individuals to cancel and reschedule through text as well. And that is supported. So two-way dialogue, again, what is automated and then moving into a conversation. Okay, the case study today is Indiana 211 Partnership launches two-way text on 898211. So the Indiana 211 Partnership has been around for a while. Cheryl Graham is going to talk about that. They developed and built a texting hub and system so that they can support each other's text when the primary cannot. Simple as that. They don't want a text to go unanswered. Cheryl Graham is the director of 211 United Way of Howard County. She's also the creator of this texting, or she conceived of this texting hub, or this way of handling statewide texting services among a consortium or group of 211 providers in the state of Indiana. She's also the coordinator of this 211 texting hub. And the title of it is in the Indiana 211 Partnership has been texting live since early 2016, and they are sharing their processes and experiences using prevention-based text platforms. So Cheryl Graham, I'd like to introduce you. Can you say hi to the audience, and we'll go ahead and start your first slide.
Very good. Hi, everybody. I want to say thanks for this privilege. It's been a real exciting project that we've been working on. I kind of want to start it with some history, like how did I come up with this idea and why? I'm imagining many of you have the same kind of challenges in your head. Anytime that we try to do a new program, or we want to provide a new service or make our service more extensive, many of us worry about how we're going to handle. We don't have extra capacity. How will that affect what we're currently doing? And that was a big part of where my brain started on this. Our center is 4 people. We handle not a lot of calls, maybe about 12,000 calls a year, but we also take over 2,000 walk-ins, which does increase our time with people. They're considerably longer than phone calls, and we also provide casework. So for those 4 people, adding something else was a real worry of mine. So the idea was, hey, how can I increase my capacity without, I don't have any money to hire anybody. So the idea was born that I need help. I need help to do this. I want to provide this. And listening to all of AIR's goals and going to the summit, it occurred to me that this is an excellent opportunity to create a consortium, to create a program where we can all work together. In Indiana, the centers meet on a regular basis, so we know each other, we have a relationship with each other, we have trusting relationships. And so I was pretty confident from the very beginning that I could get all ears to the table, but I wasn't sure what would happen when they came to the table. Long story short, we proposed 3 centers to volunteer to act as a pilot. Now my thinking was, I didn't know how this would affect my staff. I didn't know how many texts were going to come in. All kinds of questions that I had. So 3 out of the 8. We have 6 centers located in Indiana that service Indiana, and then we have 1 that's in Kentucky and 1 that's in Ohio that service some outlying counties just on the corners where we kind of meet. So I easily got 3. I can't say that happened for everybody, but I easily got 3 centers that were excited. And we started in October of 2015. We built a committee. How are we going to do this? I had previously talked to Prevention Pays, and the reason I started my conversation with them was because we do get a discount, and they were also excited about exploring this concept. It may surprise you to know that this capacity didn't exist for a company at that time either. We had to literally build how this was going to happen for everybody. So they were excited about that, wanted to be part of the creation of this, so it's all been new for them along the way as well. And then they were also working with our software provider, so hopefully in the future what we see going forward is an integration. Right now we are not integrated with our phone software, but we do see that as something on the horizon that we're working with right now. So we started in October. What we did as a group, we had a group of center directors and what we called the administrative group. Okay, many centers appointed an administrator that would handle all of the day-to-day site coordination. And then us directors came up with the policies and procedures. We used the time from October to about April, it did take that long, to come up with policies, procedures, how we can all work together, how are we going to do training, And we didn't know what any of this meant. Many of the things that Jonathan said on that first slide were probably confusing. They were confusing to us at that time, too. We didn't know what any of that meant. What I will say about those meetings is that there were two overlying things that were probably the biggest challenge in bringing the group together. One was thinking and planning as a statewide entity. Even today, I find it quite a challenge when we want to develop something that many people see it as what they need or what their center is going to do, and we had to expand our thinking and the way that we produce things and develop things so it works for everybody. So there was a lot of give and take, a lot of, how do we make it work for everybody? And that continues to be a challenge. The other thing we all decided at the very beginning of this, which we all know that calls are going down. We all know that texting for people under 50, it's Jonathan's message, is the way they want to communicate. The other thing I had to decide, do I want to invest in chat or texting? And I felt that texting was more versatile, and again, we can help each other to do this. So we made a training guide. Let's see, where am I at, Jonathan? The idea is that all 6 of the centers eventually would be on the same viewing platform, so to speak. We all see the same screen on the computer. We can just switch from one site to the other. Each center has their own page, and then everybody can switch from page to page if they need help, okay? So the sites can work together to catch anything unanswered. And we have a 10-minute alarm, which I'll get into later. And then we also have on coverage, we don't need to do anything for coverage for staff meetings, for coverage for closures, for holidays. When we negotiated that and talked about that, there were some centers that said, hey, we're open on those holidays, we'll cover it. So we talked about possibly not providing texting service for certain days out of the year, but in the end, the system said we had it all covered. So right now, if my center closes, there's still 5 other centers that can pick that up. And that's what happened in the recent disaster, okay? We had 10 tornadoes go through a week and a half ago, and 4 of them touched down. If you've never dealt with that, I hope you never have to, but our center was virtually taken over by that process, and I was able to not even have to worry about texting because all I did was text out to all the other centers and say, hey, we're not going to be doing our text, and they covered it all. We do also have a statewide database that we share. I guess that would be important for everybody to know. We do have every center. Our database, our phone resource database is integrated into each other's. So we all see the same thing. And that's just recently in the last 2 or 3 years that we accomplished that. And probably a big part of why we're able to do this. On this slide, it talks about cost savings on the platform because we didn't need service as individual centers, but one hub. We were able to talk about substantial the cost for the service is a lot less because we're one hub rather than 6 centers getting the service. We didn't see any drop in efficiency. We did have some concerns about how we would take our staff and who would answer the text and what would happen while they were waiting to answer text. And what we've done going forward is kind of understanding the challenges of text. Sometimes the text doesn't go through right away. Sometimes the person goes to a meeting before they text you back. So we've set protocols so there isn't a staff person sitting there staring at the text without answering the phone. So we have time protocols. What happens, and I'll show you going forward in the queue how you can manage that. We kind of just wait a certain amount of time and then wait for them to text us again. But we personally will sign off of that text if we don't hear back from them. The other thing that happens is if we're not available in our queue, there will be a 10-minute timer that goes off, and it alerts all of the other centers with an audio queue and a visual cue on the screen. So even if you don't have this software up, but you have your speakers on, you'll hear a ding ding, and I can even hear, you know, other people's down the hall ding. So it dings to let us know that there's an unanswered text. It tells us what queue it is, and we can pick it up for somebody else. And then once you just click on that visual alert, we can go directly to the open text that hasn't been answered. And then again, you just click to get back. I think that's that one, Jonathan. Okay, this looks all confusing and everything, but you can basically see 3 columns of information. If you look across the top, you see a whole bunch of tabs. The people that are answering the text basically just operate out of this screen only. It'd be your administrative people that deal with all of the other tabs, and you can monitor who's on the text. You can see how many they've talked to. You can read through people's text. You can change what it says in some of these boxes, and those are all for administrative level staff, and each of the centers has at least one person that knows the back end of this and has configured all of it and worked with Jonathan and Prevention Pays basically to get this to do what we wanted to do. It didn't look like this from the very beginning. They helped us to customize it in certain ways. They've come up with based on our experience and working with them, they've come up with a number of things that didn't exist that they thought might help us. So it's kind of been a journey for us as well as for Prevention Pays. So if you look on the left, well, if you look up at the top where it says Demo Public Health, this is not our queue. It's a demo queue, but up there where that little line is, in our queues, it has 211 United Way of Howard County, and you can click there. It has Connect to Help in Indianapolis, and it has North Central Indiana's, and you can just click on those. It lists all 3. Eventually, it'll be 6, but right now we have 3. We're still in the pilot. The other 3 counties are currently configuring and training, and we're hoping to have everybody online by the end of this month. So Jonathan's pointing up there where that is, and that's how you would access other queues. So then to the left here where it says Jonathan all over, and each one of those, there's a green, 2 yellows, a gray. Those are individual texts. Okay, they come in looking like that, and you can see where everybody on your, whatever queue this is looking at, whatever center this is, you can see all of the open text here. You can see that they were closed. You know, like sometimes I'll just click in here and make sure everybody's closed out. You can see who's handling it. It says Jonathan there, but it'll have each one of my staff that's handling that. All 3 of my other staff can get in here, and they are all logged in all the time during our service hours, which are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yes, we in Indiana have 2 time zones, so we had to accommodate that in the way we handled our hours, and so anybody can see those during that time. You can pick it up, or pass. You can even assign it to another staff member. I know Indianapolis does that because they have shift changes throughout the time that we do texting. So they have developed an internal way to do that. The center column is that top box is the actual conversation as you develop it. What we do there is go to our phone software. We can copy the record, whatever the referral is, and paste it in there and then edit it. As you can see, there's a 160 character limit. And again, you know, we have to clean that up usually, but when we do the integration, hopefully that'll be better. But it starts out, see how it says, "Hi, how may I help you today?" If you look to the right, do you see that same message to the right in the 3rd column? Those are what we call canned messages. These are messages that are available that will pop up in that box with 1 click. The idea is to save a little bit of time in your response. 1, to catalog common responses. If you look below it, it'll say select group where he's got that pointer. Ours is set up like beginning of message, end of message, but you can customize this however it works for you. It was our desire to sound like to, I guess, respond and sound similar. So we have developed a common set of canned messages. So each center has the same set of canned messages so that no matter who's replying, it's the same kind of lingo, it's the same kind of sentence structure. It can help you with people that don't type really well. However you want to do that. We went from a huge list down to a very kind of controlled and specific list. So we learned a lot through the development of that. Going back to the center column, you'll see the actual conversation in blue and green based on the text exchange. We're seeing sometimes it could be 15 or 16 messages between you, but we've seen as many as 40. We try to be conscientious about the fact that people may have limited texting available to them. So we try to be really efficient. There are 2 messages before we even connect with this text. There will be 2 automatic messages that are sent. One says, once they type in the 898-211 in their zip code, it puts them in on the left-hand column and then sends them a message that says, thank you for contacting us. In order to be able to help you, can you send us your name and your age? So there's your sex and your age, okay? Those are the demographics that we negotiated that we want. We were trying to be realistic. You can't get every demographic in this process. So as a committee, we decided which demographics were the most important and send those out straight away. It also gives us a couple of minutes to respond. So I could get off the phone or I can run down the hall because I can hear that little bell dinging. So it gives us a couple of minutes, but the texter thinks we're already engaged with them when that happens. So then we come and have the text message, and then you can see some things on the right-hand side. Ours, we really don't do a lot of this in the 3rd column. These are all options that are available. We tried to keep it simple for the texters. We chose not to document a lot in the text software and focus mainly on our phone software, and we've kind of narrowed it down. We have a set of tabs in our phone software. We've even narrowed it down to you don't even have to go to tab 3. We've talked about what do you do when you've replied back and then you don't hear from anybody for a long time. Initially, we had people waiting for that response. One part of training we did was to text each other to see what it was like. And what we found out is just normal texting challenges. Have you ever got that text the next day from your friend who says, why didn't you text us back? It happens in this capacity as well. It's not a problem with the software, but it's just how texting and the towers work sometimes. So you could be waiting an awful long time. So for efficiency's sake, we decided that we would only wait 10 minutes. And then we have a canned message that says, hey, I haven't heard back from you. Feel free to pick up this conversation anytime. And we get out of it. And then when they are ready to start again, it'll pop back up in the queue, and anybody that's available can take it again. The cool thing about it is it doesn't matter who's responding, because in the center column, what you see is a continuing text conversation. It's the same conversation. You can see a conversation you started a month ago with them. You can see what you responded to a month. So it's the same number, so it will just add to that conversation. It won't recreate another one. So we feel confident about getting out of it and getting our people back on the phone or taking walk-ins, and then if they come back on, just the person that's available will pick it up again. Let me see. Okay. We talked about canned messages, about how they're customizable. And again, you just do what works well for you. Like I said, we started out thinking a lot of them would be best and realized that was a bit cumbersome. So we pared them down, mostly to get out of having to scroll a lot. So we just filled the boxes with the messages and then didn't have any scroll downs in there to save time. And like it says on there, the responder are specific. Post-encounter surveys, he did mention that at the beginning. We have kind of like the same questions that show up on here. It automatically does that for everyone that texts us, which is kind of handy. So we have it set up that they get this automatic text series 2 weeks out. So we just ask them some simple yes or no's. Again, we had to kind of prioritize what we wanted to know from them and wanted to be realistic about making sure that we'd rather have them respond in short rather than not responding, with long text series. So we plan to use these for outcome measurements and kind of a quality assurance in our texting. And the next one, again, is that queue that we were looking at. Down in the lower right-hand corner, you see the yellow box. I told you there was an audio ding, but there's also this visual. So it pops up right on top of everything on your queue, whatever queue you're in. If that 10-minute buzzer goes on, what this yellow box means down here on the right is that another center has not answered a text within 10 minutes. Thankfully, we've found that people don't feel the same urgency to get a response as they do on the phone, which has been kind of nice. But this, okay, it's been 10 minutes, so you would just click on that, and it would take you to the other queue, and you would be able to see on their left-hand side which one has not been picked up, and then anybody can pick it up from there. Okay. Yeah, and then it tells you that. It does ring more than once as well. All right, and then promotional materials. This was another area where we had to think as a statewide unit, not as an individual center. What we're hoping, funding-wise, we do receive some money from the state of Indiana. And we do have to report out to the Indiana Utility and Regulatory Commission about what we are doing with that funding. The state is really concerned about improvements, reaching more people, and lost calls. We believe that a contact is a contact. I think I told you that earlier. And they seem to subscribe to the same thinking. So we can't be all about the phone anymore because we know that we're losing calls. But the state sees this as an excellent opportunity to expand our reach in times where, the phones are going down, but people would rather text. So they see that this contact is increasing our numbers along with our online website. So creating these different avenues is kind of, my theory is like give people the information the way they want to get it. So together we created a set of promotional materials that can be customized to each center's needs. The templates are basically the same thing like you see here, but down in the lower right, you can see the United Way logo, but not all of our centers are United Way centers. So we were able to take that off, and they can put in their own logos or however they want it to be there, but it's the same exact template. And then on top of that, we were able to post on the web every single piece that we have about texting. We have posters like this. We have little cards like business cards with different pictures on them. And we've created sets of these that are exactly the same for each center to use in their area. We no longer, we all cover more than one county, so these are not county specific. And that was kind of the challenge with everybody, was how do you, we got to get out of this. Like, we can't make it county specific. This is an IN211 level program. Why is that important? Because we're hoping the state would see the importance of it and fund it at a state level rather than an individual center level, which, at least in the state of Indiana, is looking like a smart move at this point. They appreciate that. And then is there another one?
And right now, the consortium includes Howard County, Connect to Help, Northwest Indiana, United Way, 211 Southwest Indiana, United Way 211 in South Central Indiana, and United Way of Allen County 211. So there's 6 different disparate, but all part of the Indiana Partnership agencies, 211s, that are participating in this shared environment.
Well, let me say, too, now that you brought that up, Jonathan, actually, the Metro United Way 211 in Kentucky is also one of the centers that provides service in some counties in Indiana, and I worked with them to set up the exact same queue. Okay. Because they serve our people. This will be the first time we will ever have apples to apples statewide for reporting. It's always been a challenge with the 2 centers that provide service in Indiana that don't exist in Indiana, just because of trying to their system align with our system. It's been apples and pears, and it's been a frustration. But texting is going to be the first time that all our reports will read the same. They'll come out of a queue that looks the same. We're looking into the fact that maybe they can become part of our hub as well. And I will say that is not doable right now. So it's another thing that's in development. You know, so it leaves you with a platform where we can do what we're all trying to do, and that's to integrate what we're doing more and being able to report more as a whole state, again, apples to apples. And Cincinnati, I believe, is looking at it. So we may end up with a 3-state consortium.
Fascinating. And, you know, back to that, the seamless pickup. So during that tornado, you just had to let them know that they were the partnership, that they were going to help you with your text. And it was absolutely seamless. They took those texts, and they actually just wound up having somebody viewing that queue permanently for the period of time that you guys were going to not be able to take those texts. Additionally, the partnership, the other agency that picked up the majority of those texts, was able to get some data instantly the next day on all of the texts, all of the conversations that they took. So really increasing capacity, not just from that shared concept of helping each other respond in the moment and handling those text conversations in the moment, but also being able to get at that data, even though it's not directly, you know, you're the primary, still being able to get at that data and count it for contacts that you handle. And that's you know, exactly what we've done, so that they were able to get at that right away. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Cheryl.
No, thank you. It kind of helps reorganize me. The other thing that's nice, like when we did publicity, in our experience, we were afraid of publicity. We were afraid to move too fast, get too many texts, be overwhelmed. That has not been our experience. It's been, every county was kind of in charge of how they pushed out publicity, and everybody had like a different comfort level in that. My county did everything under the sun right from the bat, from being in the newspaper to putting it on Facebook pages to getting it into workplaces to working with the city. Trying to think, there were a couple things that were pretty big that I can't remember right now. And we did not see a huge rush to text us. So I guess, if anything, from our experience, I would say don't be afraid of that. We have still are not overwhelmed with texting. And what I see in the future is, right now, every single one of my staff is responding and available for texting, but we don't receive enough of them right now for them to be a quote-unquote burden. We're handling it really well. But thinking ahead, I do see the day where it might make sense to, in the hub or in the consortium, to have, you know, when it really gets big, the idea would be to have 3 or 4 people or 1 center a month or whatever support each other and take all of the text. If you focus on text alone and don't bounce back and forth between the phones, you can handle a number of them at a time. we just don't have that happening right now. But I see in the future perhaps designated a person here to be the text responder. And I kind of have a new person in queue to do that. So that's just some long-term looking out. You know, if it gets to be, I've got a part-time person that's in queue, so to speak. You know, that if I need her to, I can push her full-time coming up in the future, anticipating that texting may take off. But it did not take off. You know, we saw a lot of, when the tornadoes happened, we probably saw, we got 50 texts as opposed to, in 4 days, as opposed to 1 a day or 2 a day. That's all we're handling ever since April. So don't be afraid to promote. Don't be afraid to get things out there. At least that's been our experience. I kind of wish we hadn't have been so tentative at the very beginning. We might be a little farther along at that point. I'm looking here just to see. Can you think of anything I didn't cover, Jonathan?
No, I think you covered everything. You know, it's a young program. You guys are, you know, really kind of had spent a lot of time configuring it and figuring it out and getting all that, the settings right, and extremely dedicated to that process. And you know, we really commend you guys. You know, the way in which you guys planned and have continued to work together and develop the protocols. And it's just really something that I think other agencies are going to want to see, even if it's not something that, you know, as a statewide service at some point within your state. Just looking at an individual site's protocols that's come out of the group is just really valuable information. They've developed canned message libraries that are extremely inventive, and then just the protocols themselves, you know, looking at it as a queue that can be managed by people who are remote, that can be managed by people who are at other centers. I mean, just really kind of expanding that concept of what is the queue and who ultimately is going to be responsible for it. And looking at it from the standpoint of, you know, as a group, we're going to have less missed communication or less missed text, and so far that's absolutely been the case.
Yeah, and the way we rolled it out was, he mentioned we have 6, but just to be clear, we started out with 3 centers that were the guinea pigs. They knew they were going to work harder. They knew nothing existed. They knew we had to create it, and they were excited about it. So I got lucky. And we did work from October to April and getting all that done. We launched in April, and then the idea was to get the other 3 of the 6 centers launched July 1st. And they were going to take advantage, you know, they came in after we already had the training manuals. We played with training. We set up the queue. They just adopted the same queue. They adopted the protocols that we set up. We didn't renegotiate any of that. They knew that was going to happen. They wanted that to happen. They said, we're just going to come in after the pilot. And now they're nothing but grateful. It seems to be a pretty good transition. They're thankful that they didn't have to put in the time. They see, you know, what a challenge it was, and they're thankful to us for that. And I guess in my mind, the first 3 centers covered 54 of our 92 counties, so we were the larger coverage areas. And then the other 3 centers cover probably about 37 or so counties, and then Cincinnati and Kentucky get the rest, just kind of guessing. So we hope to be fully functional. We continually meet. We have a regular quarterly meeting where you can submit ideas, you can submit challenges. The way I've approached it is absolutely nothing is final. So if you have an idea, you can bring it to the table, and the original committee, which now includes the full 6 center directors, you know, it could be changing the canned messages, looking at how queues are happening, addressing the fact that most of our messages may not be coming in 10 minutes. Whatever the issue is, We're going to continue to talk, and like I said, I've told people repeatedly, the discussion is never over because this is brand new, and, you know, we've run into a lot of things. Neither the prevention pays or us expected. It's been really kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you guys are just, you know, you worked in the first several months at working out the logistics of it, the model. And so awareness is just getting started. I mean, you guys are really just beginning to scratch the surface of that. But it's like anything. I mean, you know, building awareness, letting people know. The population that texts is there. They're already there. And they're growing. That user base is expanding. So just to give you some stats, 83% of U.S. adults own cell phones. 75% of them send and receive texts on a daily basis. And Americans under 55 text more than they call and email combined. Number 6 on the most things we do on our mobile phones, our smartphones. Number 6 is make voice calls. So and number 1 is texting. So the user base is there. The user base is and expanding. But the challenge is, can they, you know, getting it into the collective consciousness that they can text an agency such as 211. And
we do have it in our. We do have it when you're waiting in queue. We do have all the different ways you can communicate with us and get information. The way it works on our phone system is I go through that. You know, you can text us, you can get online, or you can contact us by phone. And that's before they even get in our phone queue. The idea being that we'll reduce lost calls that way, and they actually get to self-select how they would like to communicate before they push that button. So if they hear the information before they get in our phone queue about texting, and that's what they want to do, they have an opportunity to do that before they get in our phone queue. And then once they're in our phone queue, the wait messages remind them of that. So they could self-select at any time. And that, you know, especially during the tornado and things like that, I think is really valuable. And people just don't want to wait, and I don't blame them. So texting is another way to do that on their time, which I think is important. And then one final thing on the push-out messages or prescribed reminders, as he talked about earlier, we call them push-out messages. As a consortium, we decided that we would do a series of push-out messages based on statewide programming like energy assistance, tax assistance, and holiday assistance. We receive calls about Christmas assistance starting in October. And the only answer we have for people is call us back next week. We think we'll have it next week. They may call us 6 times, which you know, messes up our queue. We're dealing with the same people over and over again, and that's all they want to know. So now we have the option. We did use it during free tax preparation season, and have entered people that wish to receive reminders in a database, and we already have scheduled push-out messages that are going to happen. We're done with that. We don't have to do, so you could do it way ahead of time and just program it in there. Same thing with holiday assistance. Now when they call us the first time in October, we can say, would you like a text message when we have that information? So that's going to open up the phone lines for more constructive calls. And not bog us down with repeat callers like that, which same thing happens in energy assistance, tax assistance. People just start asking. They want to know, and we can tell them when it happens.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of agencies, INRs, are exploring texting for that very reason, offloading bursts in communication or offloading communications that happen in that kind of a way where you know that information is going to be available, but it's not available now. And so if you could collect a mobile number and then let them know that when that becomes available, we'll text you, and then suddenly that behavior of calling back over and over again is hopefully alleviated or helped at least, and because then they're assured that they're going to get that information, and it's going to come to them in a way that's probably preferred, because that referral, if it comes by text, they can act on it. It's not written on a piece of paper. They can click on the link. They can engage right away. They can make the phone call. So, you know, a lot of things have been possible when it comes to by text. And it's just a great way to also, you know, endear your service to those individuals. You know, letting them know, look, we're going to take care of this, we're going to address this, just give us your mobile number, we'll text you when it becomes available. Just a great way to really endear your services to the public.
I'm ready for questions, I think.
Okay, please, anyone, we have a few more minutes. If you can, or if you'd like, please write in your questions. If you have any questions for Cheryl and the 211 partnership, she's going to be available for the next few minutes or so. So if you have any questions, please ask them now. You can write them in. You can also raise your hand, and I can take questions that way as well. Well, Cheryl, it looks like you're going to be let off easy today. We do not have any questions so far. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, now would be the time to ask them.
And you do have my email there. I would highly recommend that rather than calling me right now. We are still in overwhelmed mode with tornado inquiries. So I'm more likely to get with you quicker, and you won't have to wait.
And Cheryl is a good contact for sort of questions about the design of the partnership, the design of the hub. And then if you have questions about things pertaining to the data side, the text conversations, archiving the text conversations, collecting that data, utilizing that data to help with justifying funding and things like that, then Ann Hartman would be a good person to reach out to regarding that, those types of questions.
Yeah, that's another division. Ann Hartman is kind of the expert in the state from one of the centers at producing reports, and they have software that I don't have, you know, a very high level of software that, you know, I could never put in the amount of time that I need to do that. So she agreed to be like our techie gal. And we do have a technology committee that when we had issues or policy development around how do we actually configure this, Ann would lead those groups. So there's kind of an administrative committee and then a technological committee, and Ann did that, which was mostly conducted with people that were prescribed as the sites, each individual site's admin. Okay, so I have, out of my 4 people, I have 1 person that configures the site and does all the administrative stuff physically on the site, as far as changing messages and things like that. And Ann can grab all the data from everybody from her site.